Welcome, everyone, to the Donovan Live Postgame Show on WKYC's Facebook Live. I'm Dave DiNatale with Jim Donovan, and we were all up late last night or into the early morning. I was. Got home, and you know, I was just kind of following Will Ewick's tweets coming from the rink as we were watching. As he was there to watch USA and Canada and women's hockey in the Olympics, and tight game, went to overtime, and then. How do you? You're a hockey aficionado. How do you feel about shootouts deciding games? In this case, deciding a gold medal.
I do not like it, and it was a phenomenal game. And I'm glad the United States won. They've worked hard to overcome what happened 4 years ago, and 4 years before that, and all the way back to 1998 for the last time that they won, when they won in Japan. But it was such a great game that I am of the opinion that I would think that both teams, Canada and the United States, would rather have a goal in regular play win the game. I just think it was such an amazing game, and it's a great tournament for both countries. Why would you want kind of a gimmicky tiebreaker of breakaway one-on-one with the goaltender, you know, as penalty shots, decide that? Now, it's the same problem I have with the World Cup, which is the greatest tournament in the world, right? I mean, the world comes for the World Cup. And many, many times in recent history of the World Cup, it has gone to penalty kicks. And PKs. And here's this, you know, how long is the World Cup? It's a month long, isn't it? Or maybe even over a little bit. I mean, if you go from start to finish, you're probably over a month. You go through all of that, you get to the championship match, and it can be decided on penalty kicks. I just don't understand it. Like I said on the earlier show, it's not like they were up against the clock that they had rented the ice time.
Right, exactly.
I mean, come on, you know? I mean, really, I just think that, you know, it's a funky way to do it. Now, the NHL does it in regular season play.
Yes.
But not in the Stanley Cup.
Stanley Cup. I mean, you play until.
Let me give you another example. Okay, I'm going to put on my Bud Collins. Let me go get my Bud Collins flashy pants and put them on. But it's like tennis. It's it's like Wimbledon or the U.S. Open. They'll have tiebreakers in a men's match for the first 4 sets. But if the set goes to the 5th set, no, you play through. You know, you play through. And the same for the women. If it goes to the 3rd set, you play through. You don't play in a tiebreaker. I don't like it, Dino. I really don't. I don't want to shortchange either team for an amazing game last night.
Yeah, no. It's almost like in baseball, you decide, you know, a baseball game goes into extra innings. Okay, well, how are we going to decide? Well, let's play home run derby, and whoever hits the most home runs against the opposing team's pitcher wins or something. You know, it's just, after all the effort that's put out, it comes down to essentially 2 players.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
I mean,
shooter, goalkeeper. The goaltender in this case. I'm not a big fan of it. And so, but you know, the American story is amazing. This team almost boycotted a year ago.
I'm glad you brought that up during the 5 today, and we're going to have Jimmy's take about that up at WKYC.com here pretty soon. You brought that up. I'd totally forgotten about that.
Yeah, they felt that they had been slighted by USA Hockey, not by the International Hockey Federation, by their own group team, Hockey USA Hockey that governs United States national performances and the national teams. They were making very little money.
Right.
Their training situations were not good. They had no kind of provisions made for them. These girls and these women, they're not playing for the Boston Bruins.
No.
And then leaving the team for 2 weeks.
Exactly.
To go to Pyeongchang and play in the Olympics. This is really, if you're on the national team, it's pretty much a full-time
job.
Full-time commitment. They'll get ready for the World Championships and other tournaments around the world to get their standings as they get ranked around the world. And they go to training camps. Now, this past one was in Tampa. But a year ago, at about this time, when it was World Championship time in women's hockey, the United States was very close to boycotting. And they got a lot of support from other groups that said, you're right. So they got a raise. They finally got the deal done. They went to the World Championships and won.
Yes.
And beat Canada, I believe, in the final. And they got a raise to $70,000. They get paid $70,000. They get a bonus now for winning the gold medal. I think it's going to get them to between 90 and 100 grand.
Okay.
Okay. They also got better training.
Yeah.
They got better food
Yeah.
for training. They got some provisions if some of them have kids,
Right.
children, for when they're at practice, when they're at these training camps. They get childcare, things like that. You know, they deserve it. They really do.
Yeah, that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Because this isn't, when you're doing these team sports, it's not a sanction from a sanctioned professional body.
Yeah.
It's very different.
Yeah, let me take you to, the Mia Hamm, at that era in women's soccer. If you remember, the United States, they qualified, they brought women's soccer into the Atlanta Olympic Games.
Yes.
Okay. And I know this very well because I was covering.
There,
I was covering them. I was doing a lot of the women's games at that time and covering them specifically through the tournament. Just before the tournament, they were not going to go. They were going the same thing with the United States Soccer Federation. They said, "Hey, we need money."
Right.
Come on. So just to tell you what the difference was at the Atlanta Games, that was
22 years ago.
That was the Dream Team.
Yes.
Okay, that was the Dream Team was there. And here's the deal. I mean, the facilities for the Dream Team were unbelievable.
Yeah.
The women's soccer team for the United States, which is right up at the top of the world standings, okay? They were staying in dorms at the University of Georgia.
Oh my goodness.
No air conditioning unless they brought their own.
Yeah.
Fans in the room.
Oh.
I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean,
That's
the
crazy.
Dream Team was wherever they went, there was security.
Oh, yeah.
They stopped traffic. They did everything. These young ladies would go out to dinner. They'd go to a Taco Bell down the street,
Right.
in Georgia, on the campus of the University of Georgia. It was unbelievable. But so they fought the same fight. But these women, that kind of galvanized this team, that they were able to win that battle, off the ice, and then when they were on the ice, then they put it all together.
And it wasn't lost. I mean, I know right after the final and the USA wins, exactly 38 years to the day of the Miracle on Ice in Lake Placid. Ironies like that with history, that's always fun.
It is. That's amazing. It's amazing to think that was 38 years ago.
Right.
And it was, it's an event, that particular event, that night, which, remember, was only a semifinal. Okay, they had to beat Finland. Then 2 days later on Sunday morning, remember, it was about 11 o'clock in the morning when they played. But a lot of people, that's one of those events where people say, I remember where I was when the United States beat Russia.
Right. In a sporting event.
Where were you?
I'm sure I was home in Canton with my family. I was only 5 at the time, so I don't.
Wow,
it's
5 years old. Very impressive. I was in St. Cloud, Minnesota.
Yes.
I was a sportscaster around St. Cloud, and I picked the game up on a radio that I had in my very, very little apartment. Okay. And I put the radio up against the window
to try to get the reception.
And I got the reception of a Canadian radio station that was broadcasting the game live from Lake Placid.
So at like 6:30, because the game was at 5 o'clock. So at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock at night, you're sitting there going.
Yeah, and it would fade in, and then it would go away, and then it would fade in, and boy, it was amazing. It really was.
Last thought about that, and then I want to get to the queue. Did you have any issue with the Canadian player who gets the silver medal put on around her neck, and then immediately it's almost like take this off. I don't want it. Just being a competitor or bad sportsmanship. That's been kind of the debate today.
Yeah. It is the old wide world of sports. That's the agony of defeat, right?
Yeah.
That's the agony of defeat. This rivalry between the United States and Canada and women's hockey is amazing.
Yes.
And it was said, even on the broadcast last night and the pregame show that they had leading up to the game, these two teams despise each other. Yet some of them were roommates at college, right? I mean, a couple of them played at the University of Wisconsin, and they were roommates. I don't know. I think to lose the way they lost probably was very tough. They had won 24 games in a row in the Olympics, so I'm sure it was tough to take. Should she have kept it on? Yeah. Let me just go back to this, and it's probably a very different situation. I think it was the Munich games when the United States men's basketball team really got jobbed against Russia.
Yes.
That was the famous clock game where they kept letting the Russians inbound the ball, and it's over, and the United States wins. Oh, wait a minute, we're going to redo that again. They did it like 3 times.
They did it was over. Yeah.
Finally, they lost. Okay, and remember, they never
accepted
the silver medals. Those medals are still at the International Olympic, place
in Switzerland.
In a vault.
Yeah, in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And I don't know if all the guys on that team, if it's true, but I know some of them have put in their will, for their heirs, do not accept that silver medal.
Doug Collins, one of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, Doug Collins is there. I remember that show on HBO, Real Sports, did one of their long-form pieces about that, and they went over and saw where the medals were.
Yeah.
And they kept saying it's Zurich, right?
Yeah, Zurich,
in Zurich, they would say, hey, anytime they want to come over, we'll give them the medal. Yeah, they're waiting for them, but none of them have gone over.
None of them will.
Different set of circumstances. Was it the best sportsmanship? No, obviously not. Yeah. Is it understandable? I guess it was. The Canadian players, I think that Canadian player is even taking a little heat up in Canada, I think, after what happened. The Canadians are known for being such great sportsmen anyway.
Very polite and friendly.
And, go have 5 Labatt's after it.
That's
but,
right, exactly.
Just move on.
Exactly. All right. So that's, I knew there was one more Olympic thing.
Okay.
With all the excitement about the women's hockey and everything, do you think that Gary Bettman, the commissioner of the NHL, and those who made the decision to leave the NHL players out of the Olympics, and maybe also our company, NBC, everybody kicking themselves a little bit because the NHL players are not there and it's kind of taken a little bit off of the men's hockey?
Well, I know the players in the NHL are very upset. Mm-hmm. They really wanted to go.
Yeah.
I mean, they love doing that and going back and playing for their countries. And the NHL did it for a number of Olympics. Yeah. And I listened to Gary Bettman on a Canadian hockey show just before the Olympics started in South Korea. And he was very firm on the fact that they have all kinds of data that they took a look at, and they were always hoping that they would get a boost, by showcasing their talent and the NHL talent playing internationally on their respective national teams, and they never noticed it enough. The owners, I think, in the NHL said, hey, listen, a couple of things. Number one, we're not getting a boost once the Olympics are over. We're not riding the high. Number two, we're worried about our players getting hurt over there.
Right.
And it cripples us when they come back. And, at that point, they've shut the league down for 2.5, 3 weeks. If you're in the chase for the Stanley Cup, if Sidney Crosby goes down hurt, playing for Canada, what do the Pittsburgh Penguins have then? I think that's been the hazy part. But if it's all about money, Gary Bettman didn't think that they were making any, if enough.
Yeah. And that, because I'll tell you, somebody who, I'm not a huge hockey fan, I would consider myself a casual hocky fan, but I really miss the professionals not being there. It's just
absolutely.
That I always enjoyed that as much as anything else at the Olympics, watching these players, the excitement representing their countries.
Yeah, and I give the American team, a pat on the back. They fought. They only had 5 practices before they played the tournament. 5 practices, and remember, they were all coming from everywhere.
Yeah.
We had a couple of kids, 3 kids from college. The kid that's the goaltender, from Erie, he's playing in Finland, right? I mean, they're playing some are playing in the American Hockey League. I mean, they're playing from all over the place. So, I mean, the fact that you would try and cohesively put that together in a very short period of time for a couple of games, I give them credit that they won. They showed they could beat Slovakia.
Yeah, that's right.
They had trouble elsewhere than that, but it really watered the men's tournament down. Other than the United States playing, I haven't watched the men play at all.
No, I haven't either. Okay, as we wrap things up, the Cavaliers are back at it tonight. They're after a 9-day layoff. We talk about a 2.5-week layoff for what the Olympic hockey used to have. The Cavs have been off for 9 days with the All-Star break, but they're back at it tonight. Just tipped off a few minutes ago against the Wizards. And before the game tonight, Larry Nance Jr. announced that after previously saying he wasn't going to do it, starting next week, he will wear number 22, his father's number 22. It'll remain in the rafters at the Q, but he's going to honor his dad, which I think is pretty cool.
Well, he did it in the slam dunk contest.
Yes.
I mean, he put a Phoenix
That's
Suns
right. It was awesome.
uniform on. That was really great. I think that's great.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, I love Larry Nance, Senior.
Yes.
Does he mind being called Larry Nance Sr.?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Probably, yeah.
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed Larry Nance Sr., and I really give him a lot of credit for hanging around the area and making it, his family and raising his family here in our area, and I think that's terrific. And obviously Larry Nance Jr. is very proud of his dad.
Yeah,
very proud of his dad. I think, who could argue with that?
Right.
Yeah.
Now I hope next year that, if assuming Larry's going to stick around, they need to go back to like a retro night and wear the old orange and blue jerseys.
Yeah,
I
used to like their blue and orange.
I did too.
Yeah, I like their blue and orange.
Yeah.
I wasn't crazy about when I got here.
Yeah.
Okay, my first year they made that very, very unexpected playoff run.
Yes.
When really they played the Celtics right down to the final beat.
Yeah.
But they had the orange road uniforms.
Yes.
I wasn't huge on those.
Yeah, I like the blue ones a lot better. Yeah, I like the blue ones a lot better as well.
Unfortunately, so did Michael Jordan. He really loved playing against them.
Yes, every year. All right, Jimmy, have a great weekend.
Thank you.
And we'll see everybody back here on Monday for another Donovan Live Postgame Show. Thank you all for watching right here on WKYC's Facebook Live.